Travel smell like women drunk away above the hay, away above the my chimney tops. Where of find me somewhere over the rain. There's a little I want to know a lullaby. If happy little bluebirds fly me on the way, but why, oh, why can't I?
I can't think of a reason why not. This is Trivial Thursdays and music from Negativland there. 3 tracks. We are joined by Mark Hosler, who is here, and I'm delighted to get to spend some time with. There you are, fine sir. How's it going?
Oh, hello. That's really sweet
Hello.
to hear. Louisa, that's a little 5-year-old girl who was one of my students when I was a preschool teacher. And I would, take my tape recorder to work. And one day she wanted to sing that song. And she had a terrible case of the hiccups. And the only edit what you don't hear is that she occasionally kind of lost steam and was giving up, and I knew it was like, this was gold. I'm getting something on tape that's so good, and I just would go, come on, no, keep going. You know,
I can hear it.
I edited those parts out, edited out myself, where I'm kind of egging her on to keep trying. God, you got to get through the song, even though you've got the hiccups. So.
That's Mark Hosler, and
Yeah,
I'm
hi,
so
Mark
glad.
from Negativland. And the weatherman, David Will, should be joining us hopefully soon. He was having a few technical issues at his home in Seattle, Washington, but hopefully he will be joining us shortly.
Absolutely, look forward to that. I'm so glad to get to chat with you all, Mark. I played I played a couple 3 things, and one of them, like you said, over the hiccups. I was so glad to get that story because the album "Escape from Noise" was something that was an early playbox ad, as we say in the business, at WRFL. And
I don't know
and
that.
the
What is that term? I don't know that expression. I've never heard it, and I am a
It's
radio
an ad.
person.
We're going for ads. We're going for ads this week, Mark.
Yeah. An ad like ADD, not AD. Okay.
Exactly, like the attention issue.
So that record that's from 1987. So for our young listeners out there, it could be before you were born. But that record, which was just a progression of what we had done a Big 10-8 place, which is made up of 10,000 million billion tape splices, and then we were interested in taking what we'd learned from, yes, for those of you on the streaming video, Mick is showing you his vinyl copy of look at that, he has the vinyl copy of the record. Does it have do you have the grass clippings?
Actual grass clippings.
Yeah,
I'm not.
it would have come with baggies of actual grass clippings that were from our parents' lawn.
I've been robbed.
Okay, you were robbed, or maybe someone's accidentally smoked it or something. But we had explored tape splicing as a compositional tool on the album A Big 10-8 Place, and then we were interested in saying, can we take what we've learned and do something that has a more of a conventionally musical structure, a pop feeling to it? That was like a challenge to just do that, and so that turned into Escape from Noise, and that record, of course, came out on an independent record label called SST Records, and
Yes.
to our shock, that record ended up, because it's a pretty, especially for 1987, it's a pretty strange record. But it ended up in heavy rotation on college radio stations all over the country. And instead of it being played at the midnight experimental music shows, which is what we would have expected, DJs were playing it during the day in between like Husker Du and REM and whatever was popular at the time. And so it was sort of that's what kind of propelled us into people's awareness in a way that, we had not been on many people's radar up until then. And that was, at that point, we'd already been together 7 or 8 years putting out records. So,
well, you mentioned that that Escape from Noise was kind of the arrival of attempting to do things in a sort of song musical structure. And, I have several of your records that after Escape from Noise, I went out looking for Negativland records. Of course, I got a big 10/8 place. And this one, I'm not sure what this one's called. It's got a piece of wallpaper.
That's the first record we ever made. It's just called Negativland. And in fact, we're reissuing that. It was a limited, we're doing 1,000 copies with the handmade one-of-a-kind covers, just like, can I see the front cover of that? Let me see the front cover.
Yeah, let's see.
Let's see what you got.
Oh, right.
Does it have anything? Okay, yes. So each album cover for our first album was made up of pictures we cut out of home improvement magazines from the late 50s and early 60s. It had a wallpaper sample cut out on the back. Of course, this is vinyl, 1980. It was made when I was in high school, and Richard was just barely out of high school. And David was well, he's 6-7 years older than me, but so a little older. But we are doing a reissue of that thing. We've remastered it. It's coming with some deluxe 40-page book interview, track-by-track breakdown of the whole record. We found a bunch of other strange ephemera to do with when the record was made that I will keep as a surprise for when we put it out. But I was literally up last night up until about 1 a.m. Gluing pictures down. We cut out 2,000 photos. I've already cut out 1,000 pieces of wallpaper. It's been years in the making to do this. It's incredibly slow and tedious to make, but also kind of fun and exciting at the same time. And so, I've been all collage the last few weeks.
And then here's points too. I don't know where. See, I get to
second. Yes, he's holding up a copy of our second record. Yeah, you have the stuff. Yeah,
I do. And I'll just tell you that I went out in search of this stuff after becoming such a huge fan of Escape from Noise. And, we're talking about a time that was basically before the internet and certainly before any of those kind of resources that were available.
Yes,
and one of the things about Negativland.
For your listeners at home, both of us have lots of gray hair.
So one of the things that was so charming, and, WRFL has always been, kind of kooky. We've got kooks of all different varieties. And, Escape from Noise was so baffling. It was so fascinating and so full of mysteries, like who that girl was singing Over the Rainbow, which you cleared up. And that's
you don't need to know that, right? You don't need to know this. I mean, we actually are very cognizant of this when we make our records. Is that you don't need to know. Yeah, if you're sort of, I hope not baffled, but if you're intrigued. And that's great, but knowing where the sources are from doesn't matter. That's definitely not a factor in how you understand it or enjoy it. Well,
so at the time though, think about that it was fairly. I mean, you can find out things so easy now, Mark, right? On the internet, just background about stuff or what the heck is this? And part of the thrill of Negativland for me was like just the mystery. I'm like, who are these people? What is this? And especially the earlier albums, which if you liked Escape from Noise and you went out and got some of these, you got a lot of kind of squelch and just like things laying over the top of each other, and it just added to the mystery. It was like, what in the world is going on here? So I'll ask you, Mark Hosler, when did this weirdness begin? It sounds like you and David have known each other for a long time.
And Richard, yes.
Richard.
It was, David, Richard, and I. And now, of course, John Leidecker is a huge, huge part of what we're doing on all of our projects and the performances, as well as working with Sue Seed, doing our visuals, and Jennifer Bennett, who's a huge part of running the mail order and the website and all the kind of behind-the-scenes stuff. But yeah, it's very much it takes a village kind of a thing to do what we do, for sure. And we've definitely tried our best to not play into all the usual tropes of how you promote your albums and put out your pictures of yourself. You're standing against a brick wall in an alley or whatever bands do. We've been pretty resolutely trying to never follow those typical pathways in what we do. But yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's it's a story I've told, I think, too many times. But yeah, just
okay.
I think it's just for everyone in the group, both our members who are both living and deceased. We arrived at hearing experimental sounds and music and something interesting that just caught our ear and lit our brains on fire. And it's where we just wanted to hear more of that. We wanted to, in my case, I was hearing all kinds of incredibly interesting music that was coming out in the late 70s, kind of I was a teenager into prog rock, and Mike Oldfield and Tangerine Dream and then Klaus Schulze and the krautrock, and then there was this explosion of stuff, post-punk, coming out of Throbbing Gristle and The Residents and Cabaret Voltaire and Philip Glass and Steve Reich, and I just was into absolutely everything, Faust and of course Noi, where our name is stolen from, and Cluster and all those groups. But there was something I wanted to hear that I just couldn't find. And I heard little hints of it on different records I was buying, but at age, I guess, 17, I just thought I'm going to make that record. I want to, and I'd met Richard and David. We all had an interest in noise and sound. And boy, I hope David's able to join us. He must be struggling with something. But David had built the Booper, which is a feedback-based noise-making device, which is just the most extraordinary, chaotic, silly, ridiculously interesting thing you've ever heard. And we've now, David and a kind of an apprentice of David's have built a whole bunch of them, and we have, I think, about 10 Boopers now, which I use one of them when we perform. And so we just started, hanging out. We were all still, living at home with our parents. We just started hanging out in each other's bedrooms and just, recording stuff and experimenting with sound. And it led to some guy at I didn't know we could make a record out of it. I just wanted to make cassette recordings and reel-to-reel recordings. But this guy at a record store in the suburbs of California, Northern California, he heard we played for him what we were doing, and he just said, you guys could make a record out of this. And back then, this is 1979, how do you do that? How do you find out? Like you were saying, it's all a mystery. How do you turn a bunch of sounds into a plastic waffle? I have no idea. We're just, kids in the suburbs. It's a total mystery. And this guy knew, where do you master your album? Where do you do the lathe cutting to make the thing that you then turn into a metal stamper to stamp it, a blob of vinyl into a record. He knew where that stuff could be done. So that was sort of the key for us. And so we then said, okay, we're going to actually do more of these sound experiments and make a record album. And the reason the first 500 copies we made have had handmade covers, and we went on to do 16,000 copies of that. Every single cover handmade, one of a kind, no two alike. But we thought we might sell, a couple hundred in a few years at a couple record stores in the Bay Area. But anyway, the reason we made the covers by hand is that we didn't understand how you get printed record jackets. No idea.
Right.
So
and no internet to look it up. No internet to
no way to find this out. No, really, like no information at all. So we figured out that the pressing plant sold blank white record jackets. So we just thought, well, I don't know, maybe in my art class in high school I can just make them, somehow. And so I just started cutting out pieces of black butcher paper for the front. There were a bunch of wallpaper samples, books in the art class just for kids to use for projects, and I just started cutting those up, and that's what turned into the jacket for the first album. But then because the covers were all different, it drew attention to ourselves. This was completely inadvertent on our part, but it actually, people noticed it. Because what the hell, these weirdo teenagers in the suburbs made this, what is this? And there he is, the Weatherman has called in.
Excellent. So happy. He's probably getting things a little straightened out here. The Weatherman
He's got a dual camera setup. I can see it now. So definitely, gosh. If you know how to tune into Mick Jeffries' Facebook page, I would encourage it.
Yeah, just do that. It's open
now. Anyway, sorry. That was a long That was a very typical Mark Hosler style, way too long answer to a question, but there you go.
I was going to say we've met, Mark. That's no surprise. That's no surprise. I think I spent about 2.5 hours sitting in a car with you in Lexington one time, just talking, and I loved it.
Oh my gosh! I think
it happens.
Yeah, when we performed, or I did a lecture. Was it when I did a talk about our work?
I think it was the lecture time.
At a cafe. There was a cafe I did a talk at in Lexington.
Yes, indeed.
Maybe.
And yeah, it was a little while ago. So
10 years, at least 10 or more years ago. Yeah.
Let's say hi to the Weatherman. I think if he's ready, or if he's still working on stuff, we can just keep chatting amongst
David,
ourselves.
I see you, but I don't hear you.
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
yes.
You're low. You're quiet.
He sounds okay.
Oh, he does.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That better?
Yes. Hello to the Weatherman.
You see my little tiny microphone?
I do. Oh my gosh, I do.
Can you describe how tiny it is for people listening at home?
Yes, it's about less than 1/8 of an inch in diameter. And it's a condenser microphone. I've got a special adapter that adapts phantom power down to 5 volts to run this type of a microphone, which is called an electret condenser microphone.
Now, David,
I'm extremely tired, so bear with me.
Yes, he was up all night trying to get his rig set up to be able to do the video part of this interview with.
Actually, I'm learning more and more about this computer. There was all kinds of things I didn't know. So it's going to get better.
Well, good.
Well, this brings us to this interesting question, Mark, which is that, in the early days of Negativland, that really, there were personal computers. I don't think you all were using them much, right? I think you were like cutting tape and doing that sort of thing, and doing things that were, I don't know, I would just say arduous, maybe, compared to the way people can do this stuff on computers now. And I'm curious how the advent of, digital editing has affected what Negativland does, or maybe what Negativland, it's a big word with a capital R, represents, or what? How is the changing of technology kind of, what kind of impact has that had on Negativland?
Well, but David, do you have an answer? Do you want to try and answer that one?
I don't know. I'm just so tired. I'm out of it.
Okay. Well, I know that certainly the Weatherman has very fully embraced his digital artistic lifestyle.
Can you hear me on family radio?
Oh yeah, we're getting some echo now. It's a nice delay.
All the gizmos.
Yeah.
All the gizmos. Doing a fantastic job.
One thing I would say is that even when sampling was new, when samplers, the device that was called a sampler, was new, we certainly couldn't afford them. And, they were thousands and thousands of dollars. But I think that though we are digitally editing everything we're doing these days, that our aesthetic and approach is extremely informed by decades of doing it via razor blade and reel-to-reel tape. And, there's the physicality. It's literally physically cutting stuff up. And there's something about sound becoming an object, when you do that, I miss it. And when you're doing all this stuff now, you're just lifting your little index finger up and down on a mouse and moving it around. It's not satisfying.
It's hard to say no to it. I say this as a photographer who worked in a darkroom for many, many years. And I'll tell you right now, I prefer Lightroom a jillion times over working in the darkroom. And yet there's some ennui for working in a darkroom. Yeah. And so I wonder, it makes computers make lots of things easier, but maybe take a little bit of the charm away from the way they used to be done.
Or gosh, if you the undo, when you're doing a tape splice, undo means you have to go take that splice, peel the tape off, very carefully, and then maybe, maybe you need to slice the sound a little bit more. And the thing is also, when you undo and redo a tape splice, you can only do that a few times, maybe 3 times, where the tape becomes so messed up that you can't, you're done. You can't fix it anymore. And so all those limitations are fantastic. That being said, one of the things that I love that we're able to do now, and I hear it on the track that you played. Jesus, I'm forgetting the name of the track title.
I played Over the Hiccups, and you mean
you played No Brain as well.
Yes.
Yeah, thanks for that. That's from our little 4-track EP that we put out a couple of years ago. What we're able to do, and it's really what John is able to do, because John is so good at what he does with Pro Tools, is that you could take a phrase now that we are laying in, found, because all of our vocals are found sounds, taken from TV and talk radio and YouTube videos, children's records, shortwave radio recordings, telephone calls, obviously, recording at our home or at our job. Those found sounds that we are layering into our music, you can take them now with the digital editing, and you can take a sentence, and in the middle of a sentence, you can put a word, you can add a quarter of a second in between 2 words. You can slightly time stretch a word. You can slightly pitch shift it. You can do stuff where you can create a musicality to how that spoken word phrase wraps around the beat, the sounds, and the rhythms in the track, so that it is even way, does this make sense? It's just way more musical. And so there's a level of manipulation that you have no idea but that is going on. And
I need to tell you something.
Yes, go ahead, Weatherman.
Just so you know, I'm not a musician.
Can you repeat that? Can you repeat that?
Not a musician.
All right, we're getting a nice echo. If that's what you intend, we are getting it.
Indeed. And I see a booper there. For those who are, if you're not, you can go to my Facebook page, Mick Jeffries. You ought to be watching this, really. So we've got some interesting graphics coming here from the Weatherman.
Anyway, yeah, so
Can you hear the booper?
We are not hearing the booper, no.
I don't know if it's been booped or not, so it's hard to know.
Oh, you'll
Are we
know
listening
it
to
if you
booped
hear
audio?
it. Believe me, it's unmistakable.
I saw that.
I have this.
Wait, what is that? That looks like a guitar.
This. Can you hear that? Is it coming through?
Oh yeah.
Okay, good. Because I have to make sure the settings are right.
Oh yeah, it sounds perfect.
This is.
I don't want you to show up. I'm a little concerned they're going to show up Molly Tuttle. She's going to be on the show a little bit later, and I had thought that she was quite a guitar player, but now I'm not so sure.
This is the Astro
Can you
guitar.
hear the booper now?
No, it's got to be louder, David. It's real low. It's there, but it's just you gotta crank it.
Let me explain what
Bring it up.
happened.
I can
Noise reduction
do
was
it.
on, and it cuts anything that's noise completely off. So now I'll fade up the booper.
There we go. It's coming in.
You hear it now?
Yes.
Yes, the booper's coming in. Sounds good. Keep booping.
Keep booping. Can that just be a philosophy in general? Just keep booping, right?
Yes, so for those of you listening at home, this parlor-sized acoustic guitar, which is covered with smoke damage, cracks, bent tuning pegs. This is the first guitar that I ever owned at age 10. My parents bought it for me with blue chip stamps that you save up from buying gas at a gas station. It was bought from a special catalog. And it's actually heard on the first record we ever made, the one you were holding up at the beginning of the show. And the smoke damage comes from the fire that Negativland, when our studio caught on fire, well, the dry cleaner below the studio we were living in and working in caught on fire, and Escape from Noise, the album we were discussing earlier, those tapes and the artwork were rescued from a burning building. But this was, I didn't rescue this one in time, but it survived, but it's got smoke damage on it. So there's all a bit of I don't know, more Negativland history and trivia for you.
That's Mark Hosler of Negativland. This is Trivial Thursdays. We're joined by Mark and David Willis. Now, you guys are playing...
Wills, not Willis. What are you
Sorry.
Otherwise known as the Weatherman, who is heard in the background pooping at this time.
Indeed. Now, you guys are coming to Lexington.
We are. That's why we're on your show, isn't it?
Listen, I'll take any excuse I can to have Negativland on my show. So,
okay.
And so that is, I'm like scrolling. Oh, here it is. Yeah, it's not, it's June 10th. So it's in a little bit, but it's at the Kentucky Theater.
That's a Monday. I know that's a little, we hope people can come out. Yes, at the Kentucky Theater. We are thrilled to be getting to perform at the Kentucky Theater. Super excited.
Now this is now the times that you have performed here before, each time it's kind of different. Like one time you mentioned which was at a place called Natasha's, was kind of more of a lecture and kind of the history of, I believe, Helter Stupid.
Well, and that was just me, and that was the history of I gave a talk that was the history of the entire group, and I showed videos and stuff like that. I've also performed solo in Lexington at, what is it called? Al's or Charlie's or...
I believe you played at the Green Lantern, Mark.
Green Lantern, thank you. That's what it was. And then Negativland came out and did just a booper show as part of the Boomslang Festival.
Right.
Soraya Brewer brought us out for that. But
excellent memory,
This show is going to be with visuals by Sue C., who appears virtually. The Weatherman is part of the show, also virtually. John and I will be there in person. And but we're also performing with a documentary movie called Stand By for Failure. It is a feature-length documentary about Negativland. It was made by filmmaker Ryan Worsley, and we gave her access to all of our archives and everything we've got. And she made a really wonderful, to us, a really wonderful, very collage, very Negativland style documentary about Negativland. And I'd say the documentary is very much about our past and our working methods and how we do what we do, and the live show is very much about America now leading up to our election. So they actually, we've been doing we have a bunch of shows booked throughout 2024 where we're showing the documentary and then playing live afterwards, which they seem to go together actually surprisingly well. So that's the whole program for Lexington on June 10th.
Now, that's Mark Hosler of Negativland. We're here with Mark and the Weatherman. And I'm wondering if are you surprised in any way that Negativland is still happening after all these years?
Yeah, David, are you surprised that we're still doing stuff after 44 years?
Not really. I'm too tired.
All right, well,
Is that sound too loud or is it okay?
No, you can be louder. Yeah.
No, it's good right. It's good right now. I would say it's good in my ears. It's good right now in terms of balance.
That's all that counts is how it sounds to Mick, because you're Mick's the final word.
Yeah, I don't want to block out the voice.
Yeah, you can talk all you want. Go for it. Yeah, as you may or may not know, we have had founding members of the group die, and other crucial, Don, Richard, and Ian all died of various health problems. It is surprising to me that the group is still going. Yes, but it's also surprising to me that we kept going after making one record out. There was no plan to do anything more than make a record and put it out. There was no plans to perform. We weren't really a band in any sense of the word. We were a bunch of kids just experimenting, with tape loops and boopers in our bedrooms. And so the interest in the record, the first record we ever made, surprised the hell out of us. And we were contacted by a local music club in San Francisco, I think that summer of 1980, and they wanted us to perform, and we'd never even thought about that. But we, came up with something to do live, which of course meant from the very first show we ever did until now, our live shows, we don't really perform things from our records in our shows. A little bit, we'll do a little, but mostly it's all created live just for the show. It's a unique, just for that medium, and that's something that we find makes it far more interesting for us to do, and we hope for the audience as well than hearing us play a bunch of the tunes or tracks,
Free bird.
Yeah, I just think, especially now, if we were at I'm 62, David just turned 70, and if we were still just playing a bunch of stuff from the 80s that we did that people liked from Escape from Noise, I think we'd be better off just shooting ourselves in the head. It's just that would just be embarrassing to me, and just feel like we were kind of dead as creative people. So I'm very happy with the fact that our you'll see when you see the
one
show,
of the things you mentioned. Mark, one of the things you mentioned about how digital technology allowed you to sort of more carefully control something that you wanted to make. And I wondered if on the early records, if you had a sense of what you were trying to make, or if it was, or the process was the final product, if that makes any sense.
David, what do you think?
No, I don't know. I'm sorry. I'm so frustrated with this stuff, I can't think about anything else.
Okay. Well, I'll just keep asking your input anyway. But I think that I'm trying to, we got 10 minutes, so yeah, the shortest answer is that
it'll be time to die.
Yep. That's true. The dirt nap.
Here you go.
Nick referred to earlier in his show.
A dirt nap, yeah, the dirt nap the show's taking. I'm going to be resurrected after that, though.
But yeah, but we're still going because we still feel like we have something to say or to offer, and we are our own worst critics of what we do. And so the sense is, if we can still pull stuff together that we think meets this kind of very, 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 very high bar that we set for what is Negativland, then we want to keep doing it. So we are. But the album you were holding up earlier, A Big 10-8 Place, which is our third record album, Ian Allen, who is one of the people who's died, Ian was the one who said, if we're going to keep doing this with sound collage, we have to take it somewhere more and do something bigger and broader, and he was the one who really pushed us into making a concept album, saying, could you use collage and appropriation not just to do surreal, data, weird, sound pieces, but can you use it to actually talk about things in a more narrative-y, sort of, it's with a through line to it in some way, a concept to it. And so starting in 1983, from that album, A Big 10-8 Place, pretty much every record we've ever made has been a concept album. And that's definitely, in my case, that's the prog rock influence, That's the Lamb Lies on Broadway influence.
Yeah, I'm so glad you came back to that, because I did want to mention that, a lot of the bands that you mentioned being influenced by all kind of, for lack of a better term, sort of take you places. They all sort of like take you away from where you are. And was it true for you all when you were younger that you just would maybe kind of rather be somewhere else sonically, or the world that you were existing in as a teenager? Was there something that sort of drove you to kind of do this other stuff rather than...
David, what do you think about that question? What's your answer?
I'm sorry. I don't know anything.
I think he knows a lot. I think he knows more than he's letting on.
He does know a lot. He does.
That's where I put the effects. One? Yeah, it's over there. I thought I put it on the...
Are you talking to someone over your CB radio setup?
I'm talking right now.
Oh, you are?
Yeah.
I could do that too.
I can talk like that also. What do you think of this, Weatherman?
Who did that?
That would be me. It's all very mysterious, isn't it, Weatherman?
It looks like the weatherman has a fax machine over there. I was wondering if that was figuring into his situation or not.
Wait, I forgot. What was your question?
No, that's where I copy all my receipts and bills. I have it linked into my iPhone, so I can copy anything I want anytime.
I want you all to know.
Negativland is very much into copying.
Boy, we haven't even gotten into that, have we?
Question. Sorry, go back. What was your question?
Oh, I don't remember, but I've got other questions.
No,
so
it was about. Yes. What drives you to do this? Creating other worlds. I could just only speaking for myself. I know that when I saw the film Eraserhead by David Lynch, which is a film everyone in Negativland loves, that and THX 1138, I'd say those are those two we all agree on. But it isn't that I wanted to emulate David Lynch, but there was something about how the Eraserhead, you can't really compare it to anything. It is what it is. It exists in its own universe, and you either want to engage with it or you don't. But there was something about that I just thought, that's what I want to do. I want us to create these worlds that you get to enter into that feel like you're somewhere inexplicably strange and odd. It has its own set of rules, and maybe you can never quite explain it or understand it. In fact, that's probably better. But there's something about it that intrigues you enough to kind of want to engage with it. And so I'd say, that's at least for me, that's definitely true of all of our work.
That's Mark Hosler of Negativland. We're here with Mark and the Weatherman. And if you're puzzled or charmed or anything by what you're hearing or seeing, you have a chance to catch this IRL, as the kids say these days, on June 10th, I believe, right?
Yes, June 10th at the Kentucky Theater, and it's going to be the feature-length documentary Standby for Failure by director Ryan Worsley, that's as sort of our opening act, and then we will perform afterwards. And the nice thing is for our elderly members of our fan base, that it's a nice, clean theater where you can sit down and relax and have a soda, or perhaps they even serve adult beverages. I don't know, but
they do.
Yeah, but John pointed this out actually about a year ago, that we actually do better. We have a better turnout when we play shows where everyone can sit down, because it's true that we've been around so damn long that there's plenty of our audience that are in their 40s, 50s, 60s, or even 70s. So seated shows are good, and we like that. I think also our show has a lot to digest in it. It's a lot for your brain and your eyes and your ears to take in. It's very information dense. So being able to sit comfortably seems like the ideal way to kind of take in what we're doing. And the show, by the way, is called We Can Really Feel Like We're Here. It actually has a name and everything. It is, as I was alluding to earlier, it's a concept. The show's it's a conceptual show. So.
And yeah, that's
Mick is screening on Facebook. He's screening the webpage for the tickets. And all that.
You can find more about this at the Kentucky Theater's website, or on you can find it. You can find it.
You can find it. Yeah.
People, you can find
and
it.
We don't tour. We don't do this much. Yeah, playing live is not something we're not. We do it little bits. We'll go for a couple of weeks at a time, spread out over the course of a few years to try to cover as much of the U.S. as we can.
What motivates that, by the way? I mean, since this all sort of began in many ways as kind of a bedroom studio experiment, what is there something that comes up that makes you all be like, you know what, we need to take this on the road?
Yeah, David, what motivates us? You need to not just shake your head, because people at home cannot hear the sound of your head shaking.
I don't care. I really am. I'm almost sick. I'm so frustrated with this stuff.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought you had it all. It was all set up and it was going to work great. You were excited about it.
Yeah, but the way my eyesight is, it's still not right.
Oh, okay.
Things are sharp, but my fingers don't go in the right spot. Because I'm seeing like double vision, and it's very difficult.
Yeah, the Weatherman just had cataract surgery. You see, this is how you know that we are really getting old. And he has his second eye surgeries coming up on the 8th of May. Is that right?
Next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday, yes. But it's doing great. It's helped his vision enormously. And I think when both eyes are done and he's got a new pair of glasses, I bet you're going to be able to see exactly what your fingers are doing. So, yeah, why do we take it on the road? I ask myself that question all the time because I hate touring. I'm super anxiety prone. It's ridiculous. It's just the worst possible situation you could put me in, personally. I know John loves it. And David, of course, gets to stay at home and come in over FaceTime, and he doesn't have to even leave his house. So I
don't even like that.
He's grumpy today. He seems a little grumpy today.
He's a little cranky, which can happen. But there is something about taking what we do out of the confines of a studio or our bedrooms or what have you, and doing this in a room with coming together with a group of people and doing this strange, weird thing that we do that is somehow compelling. And as I said, the shows, it's funny and it's surreal, but it's very much about, we're living in really crazy, insane, dark, confusing times. And the show, in our own way, we address that. And there seems to be something meaningful, it's to us and to an audience, to have things talked about like that in a room where we all come together. It seems like you give voice to these things that make us anxious, and it doesn't make us more anxious, it makes us less. It somehow, there's something hopeful in some way about it. I don't know what the right word is to use, but yeah, so somehow it's compelling. And when you're actually on stage and you're doing it and we're getting to make all of our weird noises, that part can be really fun. And when it all works, it's very satisfying. So you don't do this because it's fun. You do it because there's something about it that's satisfying to do.
I suspect there's a little bit of fun involved.
There is. You don't go on stage. I always just say I'm not there to have fun. If I have fun as a byproduct of doing a performance, that's awesome. But what I'm there for, and what we're there for, is to do an incredibly amazing show for the people who came into the room to be there with us that night. That's what we're there for. And that's different. That's like a different mindset. Does that make sense?
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm not up there having fun. And so if it's fun, awesome.
I'd like to.
I think we're almost done with our show. Do you have anything you want to say? Come on. Pick up that teeny tiny little 1-inch wide microphone and talk to us.
Oh, yeah. That's good.
I've got one last question for you, okay? And then I got to let you guys go. This is actually a question that I got that I asked. It seemed appropriate to me to ask ChatGPT to come up with some ChatGPT to come up with some questions.
Yes.
The sort of looming fear and loathing, you might say, of AI. And ChatGPT came up with some interesting questions. This is the one I'll leave you with, though. If Negativland's music had a fragrance, what would it be called, and what would it smell like?
That's definitely a question for the Weatherman.
I think I know the answer.
I think we all know the answer. David, it would smell like what? Cheap? Melted?
Plastic.
Plastic.
Yeah,
Thank you.
Probably right.
Can you say it for us? Come on, let's hear you say it.
Cheap melted plastic.
Thank you.
I'm going to work on.
Kidding.
And on that note, I think we can move on to your next guest.
I think so. It is a great delight to visit with you, Negativland, in part.
It's just some of us. We're
Did any of my stuff come through?
Oh yeah.
It's arrived. It's all arrived.
Okay. I hope I wasn't drowning you out. Because I'm autistic, I think, I can only do one thing at a time. And I wanted to do this rather than answer questions.
I love that you chose to do that. I wouldn't have it any other way, the Weatherman.
All your sounds were coming through.
Okay.
Man, it was great. Thank you.
So,
learning experience.
we'll look forward to visiting with you all and just sort of basking in all of these waves of sound and images and ideas and whatnot on June 10th at the Kentucky Theater.
All right, and then when I see it, we can go out to some car and just sit in the car and talk like last time.
That's right. That's what we're going to do. Just 2.5 hours in the car, just sitting in the car.
And then we can huff some cheap melted plastic.
Indeed. I wouldn't have it any other way. Thank you all so much for being on the show.
Yeah, thank you, Mick.
Okay, thank you.
We will see you in June.
Yes,
That
sir.
is Negativland members, Mark and the Weatherman. And this is Trivial Thursdays. We're going to take a quick break, and we are going to come back with Molly Tuttle. So stick around, why don't you? Let's see. Here's a little something from Molly. This is from her Rise album. This is Supermoon. We'll be back. This is Trivial Thursdays on WRFL.